Now, let's just dive straight in, I think, with, first of all, a quick update on the Clifford's Tower uh, situation, shall we say.
Yeah, the Clifford House. I mean, this is a story that has obviously we thought it had reached a conclusion in that English Heritage wanted to build a new visitor centre at Clifford's Tower in York. It was very heavily criticised. It was taken to judicial review, and then English Heritage basically withdrew the plan, and it looked as though the story was over. But it now turns out that because there was no judicial decision to force them to do this, that they did it voluntarily under the pressure of the campaigning. A man called Johnny Hayes, who's an independent councillor on York City Council, who led the campaign against it, and actually funded the judicial review, stands to lose a large chunk of money.
£41,000.
Indeed, because basically there's no legal process to grant him costs.
No.
So it's a bit of a Pyrrhic victory in some respects. I think the reason I wanted to highlight this now to our audience is that I think it shows one of the real fallibilities in the current UK, English at least, planning system, whereby organisations that the public used to think supplied the checks and balances that prevented inappropriate developments and so on, like English Heritage, Historic England, though they're separate organisations now. I think people still see them in the same light. They see them as conservation bodies. And so when they aren't there to take a stand against an inappropriate development like this one,
or indeed, in that sense, more or less almost against themselves. I mean, we're not that far away from
that.
From English Heritage essentially being part of the body that would be responsible for this decision.
One of the criticisms was that the approval for the scheme that English Heritage put forward, who own the building now, was given by Historic England, which until a couple of years ago was part of English Heritage, and in fact was called English Heritage, if that's not too confusing. So yeah, there's that sense of the establishment giving permission to itself. And the independent bodies like Rescue and the CBA and so on, they don't have the financial resources to take out judicial reviews like this. It is down to local campaigns and individuals, and I know of a number of cases where this has happened. Some of which have led to the issue that has been criticised being withdrawn. In other cases, what are widely regarded as inappropriate developments, inappropriate sales, have gone through because people haven't got the financial resources to question them through the system.
Well, and in this instance, it's literally coming down to crowdfunding.
That's right.
You know, so in this article from MinsterFM.com, residents and also archaeological historical groups who had supported his aims have been donating to his fundraising campaign, Crowd Justice. And this is essentially going to be reimbursing his own personal pocket eventually, and that's not a criticism. That's rather to say, in this instance, there is no buffer and no recourse, and that is a shame. So just to clarify then, in terms of this proposal for the visitor centre, and there is a large front and centre image on this article of what was being proposed.
The building that looked like basically a set of concrete teeth at the bottom of false teeth at the bottom of Clifford's Tower.
Yeah. Where do we stand then in terms of, you know, is there still going to be some form of visitor centre, or is this now just not? Is this been just, you know, shot out of the water entirely?
This particular plan has.
Yeah.
I suspect that in due course, because they want to monetize the site in a more efficient way, and in a sense that's what they're there to do. English Heritage, which now runs the national portfolio of historic buildings, which includes Clifford's Tower, also includes Stonehenge, also includes Dover Castle and many other sites. They are committed to become self-funding by the early 2020s.
Yeah, yeah,
So I suspect that they'll be back with another plan, I'm sure.
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on it, and of course let you guys know at home as things develop there. Because I suppose just briefly, I'll just return to the fact that I used to live in York. Oh, did you really? Did you really, Mark? But I did used to live in York, and what's interesting about this site is, as you say, there's this need to more aggressively monetize all of the properties actually across well, in particular England in this instance. Because government funding, as you say, will be taken away in the near future. But the weird thing about this site is that it is surrounded by a public access car park. You can just walk onto the Mott Hill, and you can just walk up the steps. And I can completely see why that just bothers people who want to and need to make money from the site. And the proposal as projected in the sort of the digital AR kind of reality thing that they put out, this sort of interpretation of what it would look like, is seemingly an attempt to formalise the access to the steps that formalise the access to the entrance to the tower. So for me, this whole thing is a very odd story, because you can, even if they were to put this thing in place that they had planned, people would still be able to go onto the hill, onto the moat. It's a really weird one actually. And by the look of it, you could just go up the hill and just go across onto the steps. I can't help but think that actually this is a solution. This is not a complete solution for anyone's concerns when it comes to this monument, in terms of access, but also in terms of for English heritage controlled access as well.
No, and I think it highlights really the way that the access to heritage properties has changed in the last 40, 50 years. It used to be the case that every English heritage property had a custodian and a little wooden hut at the entrance to the site, or certainly all the significant ones, and you paid a small amount of money to go in to see that particular site, bought a guidebook maybe, and you had a great time looking at a very low impact kind of access and marketing. What the business model now is that you access the site, yes, but at the same time you also access the shop, the cafe, the car park, and all the other things that go with it. And what they really want you to do is take out a membership.
Yes, yeah,
and you can't. You have to have the facilities, the till, the electronic, the internet access, and so on to facilitate that. And that's what this is really about. It's about selling memberships.
Well, and in that sense as well, you have to provide, therefore, no matter, even if it is a stone in a field somewhere, you have to provide as close as possible to a uniform experience at every single site that your members can visit.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a whole other segment, and I won't go into this in too much detail. But when I used to work at the National Trust, for example, there was a near obsession with converting feet through the door into paid memberships.
Absolutely.
Because and I understand why. The organisation exists because of paid memberships, and can only really continue and legacies. Yeah. Well, yes. But. Forever for everyone, inverted commas, but in that sense, I can't help but wonder whether or not actually as I say, there's this question about access, about actually who is coming in and who's in that sense also being discouraged from accessing these places as well. But I mean, maybe we should talk about that in another segment. So in the future,
probably should. We'd be here all day otherwise.
Yes, in the future we'll come back to that question.